Welcome to Slightly Twisted Female. I'm your host, Brittany Rue. Today we're going to talk about the Uvalde, Texas. The Texas elementary school massacre that happened on Tuesday. What was it, May 24th? Where an 18-year-old gunman entered an elementary school armed with AR-15 assault rifles and opened fire on children, teachers who were trapped and totally helpless to defend themselves, and it resulted in the executions of 19 children and 2 adults, including one teacher named Irma Garcia, who was a teacher for 17 years, and her husband subsequently died of a heart attack about 2 days later when he was visiting her gravesite, which is sadly really common, and it's actually more common for males to die very shortly after their wives, especially and almost exclusively if it's a very long-term marriage and a relationship. A lot of times these men will die of heart failure, and it's related to the stress and the heartbreak and the pain of losing their partner, and it's just bittersweet, horrible thing. Hey everybody. So I'm going to do my best to I want to be able to go through this and kind of get through this stuff objectively. I've been putting this off and trying to hype myself up to do this stream. This is one of those situations that has really impacted me personally for some reason, and I felt this way during Sandy Hook also. And I don't know these people. And unfortunately we live in such a highly connected world so that we are aware of just so many tragedies that happen across the globe, and it's for some reason I'm just not numb to it when it comes to kids. I don't think I ever will be. And also it's the anniversary, the 1-year anniversary of my my nephew who passed away is this weekend. So it's just this intersection of just awful stuff. And I had COVID last week. I'm feeling a little bit better, but I just feel like it's just been a lot of stuff, and I keep feeling really emotional, and I'm let me just kind of get myself together so I can do a stream or get back on here, and it's I having a hard time even finding that window, so I figured I would just do it. All right, so let's start with some news coverage, and then we'll go from there. And let's just talk about what's been going on in terms of a lot of different things related to this case. We'll talk about a lot of the different conversations that are happening nationally, internationally. Hopefully the audio's okay. The audio was kind of low the last time. Hold on, let me put my window capture at the top. That is not it, apparently. Let's see. Why is the window capture? Oh, video capture. Oops. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. All right. Oh, God. It's just so sickening. It's really just so sickening. All right. Here we go. Oh my God, Max, I can't. That's something we need to talk about. I can't even tell you. The way that I feel towards the police response is so. I can't even. I can't fucking even. I'm like, let's just get into this because I want to just not get emotional during this. But I can't even with the way that the police responded. It makes me fucking sick. It makes me fucking sick. All right, let me okay, God. Hopefully this is loud enough. Cuz I keep having problems with it. Oh, all right, I hope this is loud enough for you guys.
Will carry forever the horror of hiding. Meanwhile, traumatized survivors, elementary school kids, will carry forever the horror of hiding from a killer with a rifle. One girl we spoke with heard the shots and the screams. She hid under a table, and she lost her best friend. Fox 4's Alex Boyer spoke with that young survivor. He is
and just before, like, I'm really not entirely sure how I feel about them interviewing a 10-year-old right after being involved in a horrific school shooting. Can you guys hear okay? Can the chat let me know if you guys can hear the video? Is it loud enough? Because I've been having issues with the videos not being loud enough. Hold on, I'm gonna play it for a second. Tell me if you guys can like hear what he's saying.
In Uvalde tonight, Alex. A young survivor. He is in Uvalde tonight, Alex.
Can you guys, is the sound okay? Hold on, I'm gonna check it really fast because I don't want to just keep playing it through and then I find out that the audio was shitty the whole time. Hold on, I'll listen to it on my own thing. Enough because I've been having issues with the videos not being loud enough. Hold on, I'm gonna play it for a second. Tell me if you guys can like hear what he's saying.
In Uvalde tonight, Alex.
Okay, I think. All right, it sounds okay. Oh, okay, good. I put you guys. Audio is fine. All right, good. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I had it on. I hate when it goes on top chat and I want live chat so I don't get all the messages, but I just changed it. All right.
Yeah, Steve, a very difficult story. First off, I want to tell you I'm standing here at the town square where just a few minutes ago the community came together, held hands in a prayer vigil. Now back to that young 10-year-old girl. Her name is Gemma Lopez. I had a chance to spend a few minutes with her today at the park alongside with her grandmother. And she tells me she was watching a movie when all of a sudden a bullet came through the wall. It turned out that the gunman was right next door shooting inside that classroom. Sadly, her best friend died. Her grandmother, now worried about her mental health. The grandmother tells me that she and other parents were outside of the school desperate for police officers to go inside.
And then I just went to the window to go see what was going on. I saw a police officer, and then I heard more of the gunshots.
10-year-old Gemma Lopez survived the unimaginable. The Robb Elementary School fourth grader was in her classroom Tuesday morning when an 18-year-old gunman armed with an AR-15 style rifle began shooting up the connecting classroom next door.
A bullet came through the wall. It went in between Gillis and Stacy. It went past my arm and hit the table.
Lopez and her classmates were watching the movie Jungle Cruise. It was supposed to be a fun day, with the end of the school year on the horizon. Soon, it was about survival. Her teacher turned off the lights and told the students to hide.
My son is 11, so he's a year older than this child. I don't know how I feel about them interviewing her. But and I guess it's the grandmother gave permission for the interview, but it's just like, so it's the end of the year, kids are all just having little like classroom parties and stuff like that. And, I know that, so my kids, even as young as like my littler kids, especially after Sandy Hook, we know that Columbine happened, back in the 90s, and then there's been a few other tragedies. Sandy Hook is what I saw. Well, that's not true. Columbine is when zero tolerance happened. That's when, like, if you bring any kind of a weapon into school, it's like they took it, really seriously. That's when that Columbine really started off the, like, zero tolerance with bullying. zero tolerance with threats, zero tolerance with fighting, which has had like mixed things. I think sometimes the focus was on the wrong thing. And that kind of set in motion a whole other thing that, in a way, when you think about it, is also what kind of gave rise to a lot of the even the LGBTQ plus IA whatever, and like being real, you can't bully kids who are like, queer or like, strange, because the whole idea was that it was kids who were being bullied into doing this. And it's like, I don't know that, because we don't see, girls get bullied a lot. I was bullied as a kid. I was always like, I had friends and I was like fairly popular, but like, I've been through stuff too. Every kid has been bullied, and it's like I don't remember any girls shooting up the school. So it's like I feel like we've approached this in the wrong way a lot of the time. And so I know that my kids, for example, after Sandy Hook is when a lot of the it became less about policy and more about like direct action on part of the school. So for example, my kids, the elementary, the preschool that my kids were going to, it used to be open and you would just walk in. Now we have keypads at every door. Every door is locked down, and we have like a really heavy door that locks down. And you have to, every parent has a unique passcode. And there's signs everywhere that say don't hold the door for the person behind you. Even if you know the person, you don't hold the door. You don't just say, oh, here, you have to close the door and the other person has to put in their code, and the parents have been like pretty good about following through with that. But I know that a lot more security measures were put in place, particularly after Sandy Hook, whereas Columbine and some of those school shootings, it was more about like, how do we, deal with kids interacting and things like that. But I just wonder, it's like how much, with all these lockdown drills that they do, and my kids do lockdown drills, and they tell me, and the way that they explain it to the elementary schoolers is they tell the kids that there's a wild animal. My sister called me really upset. My sister and my kids, my sister's my neighbor. Our kids ride the school bus together. She's 6 or 7 years older than me. She's a lawyer. She's been my best friend my whole life. We're so different, but so similar at the same time. Our kids are best friends. She has 3 daughters. And she called me really upset when this happened, and she was like, do we have a plan if this were to happen at our school, and is there enough being done? And she's like, I just feel like, I feel like there's not enough communication, like they should call the school community together, and we need to, I know that they run drills, but like what exactly goes on in those drills? The way that for our kids that they explain it is they say that there is a wild animal that's loose, and they go through different things, but I don't know exactly what happens, and I want to find out those things out. But it's really sad to me that our kids have to sit here and run through drills of an active shooter situation. And I just think about like, not one of these school shooters have been female. Not one. That is not an insignificant fact. All right, let's hear what else she has to say.
Quiet under the table. I was crying just a little bit.
Lopez says police evacuated.
Oh, hold on, sorry.
Evacuated their classroom. She said she ran and never looked back.
I was just scared because I thought he would like come in like our room and like shoot everybody.
Sadly, she would later learn her best friend, 10-year-old Eliana Cruz Torres, was among the 19 students and 2 teachers who were killed. Like many family members who first arrived on scene, Lopez's grandmother was desperate to get inside.
I don't know what to do. I mean, I wanted to jump the fence and see what's going on.
Witness video from the day of the shooting shows frantic parents pacing outside Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, begging police officers to go inside and confront the gunman.
You know that there are kids, right? They're little kids. They don't know how to defend themselves.
It's not exactly clear when, during the course of the police response, the video was recorded, but we do know from DPS it was approximately 1 hour from the time police encountered the shooter to the time he was killed.
Okay, so this is the part that really fucks me up. Jaleesa says, and oops, sorry. I'm not big on like the conspiracy theories and all that sort of stuff, but I think that there is actually like something to what Jaleesa just said. Jaleesa says people are saying there's no way an 18-year-old who works part-time at Wendy's could ever afford the $6,000 it probably costs for those 2 semi-automatic rifles and hundreds of bullets. Do you ever notice it's always an election year? There's some just real there's something really I want to try to like minimize my cursing so I can stop. All of my videos get demonetized because of that. There's really something going on between this really bizarre Supreme Court leak and now this, and I'm not necessarily saying it's a false flag. I don't know. It is. No, it absolutely is weird that it's an election year, that the Democrats have been losing support like crazy. We've seen a lot of, we've watched a lot of the sick stuff that went on during the election year, even with the presidential election, with all of the hardcore censorship over the Hunter Biden laptop. I personally, before I started this, I had a fairly popular political Instagram account that suddenly tanked once I posted, 1 or 2 posts about Hunter Biden, and I started getting my posts, like I was totally shadow banned, and I was starting to get like the fact checks under a lot of my posts and stuff like that. So we know that there is stuff at play. But I want to get back to what they were saying is that let's just look at what that father said again, because this is the stuff that really fucks me up. This is the stuff that really, really fucks me up with this whole thing, and that really is upsetting to me. I want you guys to watch this again, this video of this father. I can't. I fucking can't even.
Fence and see what's going on.
Wait, hold on. See what she said again.
Lopez's grandmother was desperate to get inside.
I don't know what to do. I wanted to jump the fence and see what's going on.
Witness video from the day of the shooting shows frantic parents pacing outside Robb Elementary School.
Oh, sorry. Let me turn this up and turn this one down.
In Uvalde, begging police officers to go inside and confront the gunman.
You know that there are kids, right? They're little kids. They don't know how to defend themselves.
It's not
That's the one that fucks me up. I just feel like in this country, it's like there's just something going on across the board. There's something just fucked up with our men, and I really do think it comes down to when the smallest, most critical unit of society is the nuclear family. I don't give a fuck. And this is something that I will fight with feminists till the day I die about. The nuclear family is like the smallest viable human unit. And it's the keystone of everything else in society. From the home, then you have the extended family, which hopefully is, other clusters of nuclear families who all then come together as a broader unit and have contact with each other. The worst thing that we ever did during the rise of the Industrial Revolution was to begin to disintegrate the extended family and compartmentalize down only to the nuclear family. When you get nuclear families back together and when you reunite these broader networks of extended families. I know for myself, my sister lives in walking distance to me and her 4 children and her husband. My brother is 10 minutes down the road. My parents are 10 minutes down the road. My parents are still married. My sister is married. My brother's married. They're all married to, they've been married once. They're married to the people that they have children with. We all work together as a unit. They are the reason that I was able to survive my divorce. They're the reason why I have 4 children and I'm able to keep my kids highly functioning. My kids are in schools. And whenever we have a problem in the community and we've had issues with like bullying or other things, it's like we're a whole unit and we work together and we know everything that's going on with any of our kids. When my nephew died last year, when my nephew died last year, my oldest son felt that he had been invited over to the house that day, to my brother's house. And he chose not to go because we had just bought a bunch of garden supplies and he was going to start his own garden. And so he decided to stay home. And the first thing that he said when he found out that my nephew had drowned in the pool that day was that it was his fault because he was invited to come over and he chose not to. And he said that had he gone over, he would have been the one there, watching over the kids, because he's the oldest. My son is the oldest of all of our nephews and nieces and all of the kids in our family. And he's, always kind of takes that like oldest role. And he was like, if I was there, it wouldn't have happened. And he like held on to that. And, and I talked to my family about it, and it was the end of school. And he said something like he didn't want to live anymore. And so I immediately, I contacted the school. I contacted my family. We had a whole big meeting, and I put him in intensive outpatient therapy program for 2 weeks. And I'm never going to not take it seriously if my child says that they don't want to live anymore. And that really helped. And I reached out to the community, and I know our principal. I grew up in this area. I went to the high school that my kids are going to go to. My sister went to the high school that my kids are going to go to. My brother went there. We've been here our whole lives. I've lived in different places, but I came back, and it's like when there's something wrong with one of our kids, I have people to reach out to. The school knows us. The school knows my nieces. They know my sister. They know my brother. When you have a community and every child is accounted for, no child can slip through the cracks. That is so big, and it's like, had I just left him, and so when we have our boys who experience emotion in such different ways than girls do, down to the time that they're babies, from the time that little boys and little girls, babies, I'm talking infants, damn near newborns, and even toddlers. And I don't know how much of it's socialization. I don't know how much of it is innate, but there's a lot of studies that show, for example, little boys, when they play a clip of a baby who's crying, little boys are much quicker to go and try to turn the clip off and try to end whatever the stressful noise is. And there's a lot of evidence that shows little boys have a harder time dealing with emotional distress, dealing with other people's emotions. It's not that they're not emotional, it's that they're more emotional than girls, and they break down easier, and they want to just they can't deal with it. They can't process emotions the way that girls can. People say that girls are more emotional. The fact of the matter is that they are less overwhelmed by emotion, which is why they're able to talk about emotional things. They're able to stand in heavy emotions and process it and face it and deal with it and talk about it and go through it. And it's not that they're more emotional. It's that they actually almost are less emotional because they can deal with emotions. Boys, from the time that they are little, I don't know how much of it is nature versus nurture, get very overwhelmed by other people's emotions. We need to plug in. What I just saw in this video about parents having to stand by while their kids are being slaughtered inside of a school, while the police are just frozen with inaction, is so, I can't even. And I had somebody, and again, some people are going to disagree with me about this. I know a lot of people are calling we've got to get rid of guns in our country and stuff like that, and hopefully you guys can, we can continue to have a conversation, even in points that we disagree. If there is any illustration, any situation to more perfectly illustrate why I believe civilians need to be armed, prepared, trained, and ready to go, that's the reason. When we create a situation where criminals who aren't going to follow laws, who are going to access equipment and guns and whatever, yet people who follow the law are going to say, oh, well, we can't own them anymore. I guess we've got to, either get rid of them or just not get them in the first place. We don't want to put ourselves in a position where we are fully reliant on the police. And the fact of the matter is that there is racial differences. There are, for example, I know like in the inner city Philadelphia, if you call the police to come in, and especially you say that it's an active shooter situation, they are going to take their motherfucking time. They're not going to rush over there to what? Risk themselves because of some inner city, gang violence. And the way that they see it, it's like, oh, you guys are killing each other all the time. You guys are shooting each other all the time. We'll come when it's time to clean stuff up. Where does that leave women and children? Where does that leave women and children? So you're in the middle of like a war zone situation. The cops don't even want to get involved. And there's just, again, it's like once the nuclear families start to break down, the whole community starts to break down. And we have police who sign up to be police, and they're not ready. They're not willing to go in and subdue an active shooter situation. From the bottom of my heart and right hand to God, if my child was in that building, or one of my nieces was in that building, or my nephew, when he was still alive, was in that building, I wouldn't blink. I have a Glock 40 and a Smith & Wesson 9mm. I've got a handful of hollow tips, and I have a fucking bulletproof hoodie. If I had those things accessible, I would grab them, put extra clips on my hip, and I would go in there so ready to fucking die. I would go in there so ready to die. And you sit, and they had full gear. They had drop boots. They had knives, they had guns, they had extra men. They're wearing bulletproof vests, they're wearing helmets, and they're sitting there frozen in inaction. And not only frozen in inaction, but not allowing families, parents to go in. They handcuffed a woman who said that she wanted to go in. You have me all the way fucked up. You have me all the way fucked up. I just, that to me. And now we're at a part where it's like our economy is falling apart. Our local communities are falling apart. And we've got to just trust and hope and pray that the local police stations, local police organizations are going to care enough about our specific community, us as a group of people, when we call them, that they're going to be willing to jump in and risk themselves. You cannot tell me that they uniformly are ready to sacrifice themselves for any group, any community. No. I want, if a situation is going down, I want ex-military, I want ex-police officers, I want fucking soccer moms driving minivans who every day go down to the shooting range, who know how to safely store, manage, handle guns, who are willing and ready to die for their children, there to step up. I don't want to sit and wait for the police to get themselves together and decide whether, sit there and chit chat amongst themselves and decide whether or not these kids are worth saving. Because they might not be worth saving or risking their lives for one of them. I would die for any one of my kids or my nieces. I would die for one of their friends. Let's see what the chat's saying. Mech says, I suspect the shooter might have had an issue with kids. I'd want to know what was on his hard drive and the conflict with his grandmother that predicated him killing her. Yeah, I want to know too. There's a reason why, he went to the high school, the Uvalde high school, that's like, in the same district as the elementary school. Rana says, I think it was an argument over a phone bill, according to a lot of the news articles. I thought his grandmother survived. Yes, she did survive. She got hit in the face, but she was able to run over to a neighbor and survive. Jaleesa says, yes, I heard the grandmother was evicting them because mom was a drug addict who wasn't paying rent. I think he had a sick trauma bond with his mom, and it was a sick attempt to protect her. Carmel says the Second Amendment was written before machine guns, and why should the right to bear arms mean assault weapons? Handguns and farmer guns are also arms, so why can't people make do with them? I just think that we're seeing now, we're moving towards a more like totalitarian regime, and that's what happens when economies start to fall and governments start to fall, and it's like the governments try to just like scramble to regain control. And I think that I don't want to leave all of the power in the hands of these people who have proven to us time and time again that they don't care about us. Now, I do agree that an 18-year-old should not be able to stockpile military weaponry. Absolutely not. In fact, men in general need to really be supervised and monitored, because again, women have the same access to AR-15s. Women have the same access to rifles that men do. You know who is not walking into an elementary school? You know who's not shooting out of their hotel room and spraying bullets down on a concert? You know who's not doing any of that shit? 50% of the population. There's something going on, and let's just finish this clip. There's something going on with our men, and I think I have a sense of what it might be. You guys, I'm sick. And again, and before I start this, somebody had, challenged me on Getter and was like, in light of everything that's happened, how, if at all, has your stance on the Second Amendment changed? And my answer to that is that this is a nuanced conversation, the same way that there are other countries that have a much higher, even a higher gun ownership than we do, and don't even have a fraction of the violence that we do. And again, and you look at, there's disproportionality of how people with the same exact access to weaponry are dealing with it. We have a male violence problem. And you have to understand, when we get rid of the right to bear arms, and I know this is such a cliche argument, but it's true, criminals will still access them. They're already in circulation. There's no way to get them out of everybody's hands. Even if we take the whole, our right to stand up to a corrupt government out of it, which that is an absolutely legitimate thing. Look at what's going on in Afghanistan, right? You take away women's rights to protect themselves. Owning a gun ended the harassment and the violence against me by my ex-husband. Him knowing that I own a gun, seeing it on my hip, ended the harassment. It ended the abuse. It ended him coming into my house without my knowledge. It ended him walking in here as if he still owns the place. So again, it's women who will still continue to suffer. Let's just take a look at this. It's a complex issue, you guys. It's a complex issue across the board.
Not exactly clear when during the course of the police response the video was recorded. But we do know from DPS it was approximately 1 hour from the time police encountered the shooter to the time he was killed. A tactical team breaching the classroom where 19 fourth grade students and 2 teachers were killed.
That long. I think that's terrible. That's terrible. They should have done something.
At a press briefing Thursday afternoon, the Texas Department of Public Safety laid out an updated timeline, reversing some of the information that had been previously reported. Wednesday, Fox News and others spoke to DPS officials who said the shooter and a school resource officer exchanged fire. But on Thursday, Lieutenant Victor Escalon with DPS said there was no officer on the campus and the shooter walked into an unlocked door on the west side of the school with no resistance. Police eventually did arrive about 10 to 15 minutes after the shooter crashed his grandmother's truck near the school and fired on 2 people at a nearby funeral home.
They hear gunfire, they take rounds, they move back, get cover.
They saw the gunman enter a joint classroom through 2 open doors, but instead of pursuing,
They don't make entry initially because of the gunfire they're receiving. But we have officers calling for additional resources. Everybody that's in the area, tactical teams. We need equipment. We need specialty equipment.
An hour later, a Border Patrol tactical team arrived with
No, I don't give a fuck. Like, how much equipment do you need? If it's that complex, if it takes an hour to get prepared to respond to an active shooter situation, then something needs to change. Something is really fucked up about your protocol. You guys have drop boots. You guys should have rifles on hand. Okay? There should be somebody who's managing that equipment closet. It's so inexcusable. They step back. They try to decide. It's so inexcusable. It's so cowardly. I can't even. And I am reading the chat. Listen, I'm reading the chat. I absolutely agree. No, I don't think an 18-year-old should be able to go stockpile weapons. No, absolutely not. Abso-fucking-lutely not. I think that, if driving a car requires that you do training, that you do oversight, have supervision for 6 months, that and that's in for public safety, that's for personal safety. And Mech said something that's really good about the waiting period so that people can't just act on sort of like a spur. Some people can become psychotic, and psychosis can last days, right? It can last days, and somebody can be psychotic or manic or just in a totally altered state, and you can go, if you quickly get stuff and then act on something. No, we need to also monitor how much people have it. Also, we have the technology for fingerprint recognition. There's other ways to protect guns. There's ways to make sure that, because again, sometimes people will buy guns and then a son will go in and break into his father's cabinet and get a hold of guns. We got to make it so that only somebody, that a gun only responds to the person who owns it, right? So that any random person can't just pick up somebody else's gun. We have that technology. We need to just manage who has what. And yeah, there absolutely needs to be training. There needs to be some sort of training. And there should also be, I don't know, maybe some kind of like, it should be public knowledge of like who owns what. Like people should, I don't know, because then maybe you could target people who don't have something. I just feel like we should be able to know and find out who has semi-automatic weapons. And it's just so upsetting to me and confusing to me how many people, when you heard his aunt spoke out and his grandfather, who's I guess either the husband or the ex-husband or whatever of his grandmother who was shot in the face, are all saying, oh, they never saw it coming, they saw no signs. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. If if you saw not one red flag and you know that this person is, is able to commit something like this, that's a huge problem. And this is what happens when families start to break apart, when families start becoming dysfunctional, when there's no one is responsible, when we don't have the matriarch anymore, we don't have a patriarch anymore, we don't have, these people who lead families, who, when the family doesn't have a firm structure. This is how people go unaccounted for. This is how mental illness goes unaccounted for. This is how stuff is able to, you better believe. Not only would I know if one of my kids was struggling in this way, I would know if one of my nieces or nephews was struggling in this way. I would know if one of their friends was. I have a whole community of parents who I'm very close with, and we are all accountable to each other, and we treat all of our children as just a shared responsibility. We don't let kids fall through the cracks. How do you not see? How do you not see? Let's see. Yeah, Mex says we can restrict access to certain types of guns, like military-style weapons. We can have age limits that make sense. I totally agree. And again, for military-style, like having a handgun should be more accessible. You need to have like training and really go through some sort of an evaluation. And again, if we don't want the government to be, part of deciding who can own guns, that's fine. But it should be like a panel of other civilians who take a look at somebody's case. Like that's so doable. It can be like a volunteer sort of thing where, it's the same way that when you commit a crime, we're judged by 12 of our peers, right? We get judged by 12 of our peers to make a decision whether or not we committed a crime against the entire community. We could do the same thing with, owning guns. We want certain people in our communities to be able, like my neighbor, for example, my neighbor's ex-military. This black guy, it's him, his wife, and their son who's a few years older than my kids. It's like my only main neighbor. Everybody else, I'm at the corner of the street, and then you cross the street, and then there's people behind us, but like we have like woods kind of in between us. So this is really my only neighbor except for the person across the street. And I used to, when I first separated from my husband, it was kind of scary for me to live alone. I realized for the first time in my life, I'd always like lived with a man, or I moved out of my house when I was 18. So before that, I lived with my parents and my dad. My parents are still married, and my dad is a really like he's a really high functioning person. He's somebody that I would always feel like could like stand up and defend us and whatever. And then it was like once my husband wasn't there, and he actually became the source of like the trouble and the violence against me. I remember being afraid a little bit, whether it was like rational or not, just being nervous. And I started to feel good knowing, because I'm close with my neighbor. He gardens, I garden. He's retired now. This is even before I went and got my gun license, and he was the one who talked to me about getting my gun license. I know that he pays attention to everything that goes on, and I know that he knows that I was alone, and I know that he always kind of kept an eye on my house too. And like I remember if anybody ever pulled up, I'd see that he would kind of like come outside and like just keep an eye on things. And it's like I feel good knowing that he's armed. I feel good knowing that he's trained, that he has tactical skills and things like that. There are times that, then we have seen times when people like that have been able to step up into situations, and that makes me feel good. We don't want to just sit there and be like a bunch of sitting ducks and there's nobody who's armed or ready to go. And I will always advocate for women, especially because we know that most women who do kill in self-defense. except for like the few totally rare, crazy circumstances. Most women kill in self-defense. The vast majority of female domestic violence against male is self-defense. You know, I think that women should be armed and trained and know how to store guns safely, know how to keep them away from other people, know how to respond in different situations. Let's see. Eileen Not Caring says the criminals will always get the gun no matter how many gun laws they have. We need to train people to defend themselves, and we need kids to get off these meds and get help. Big Pharma is a problem. 1000%. Also, what's going on with these like skyrocketing rates of autism? That's scary. And we know that autism manifests very differently in males than it does in females. We got to really look into that sort of stuff. What the fuck is going on? Guns are here to stay. Erica, yeah, no, they are. They're here. They're in circulation. We can sit there, you know, putting all of these hardcore gun laws really ends up hurting law-abiding people because they create all these like really hard, like technicalities and stuff and just nonsense. Like my ex-husband tried to get me arrested on some technicality with a gun law just to strip me of my, just to disarm me. You know, it was thrown out because it was nonsense, but it 100% to disarm me. Because when I like started making it really clear. I was like, if you ever walk into my house again, if you ever step foot on my property to threaten me, you don't live here anymore. This is not your space. You are trespassing. If you come onto my property uninvited again, you make me feel unsafe in my own home, it will be a problem. It will be a problem. I will defend myself. You're not putting your hands on me again, period. So yeah, you know, like you said, Eric, guns right now are here to stay, and it's about we do have to have more common sense ways. These stupid little technical laws. It's like, I don't know. I think the hard thing is it's like the way that we, you know, Philadelphia needs different sort of gun regulation than, you know, the suburbs versus even out in the mountains in Pennsylvania and different areas. So it's a lot of this stuff is going to get resolved when we resolve the sort of fundamental core issues, the mental health crisis, but also the male mental health crisis. You know, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that, you know, a lot of these males are in an extended adolescence. I want to get into that. Let's finish reading that or listening to this. And sorry if I'm like kind of scattered, you guys. I've been wanting to do this live for a while, but it's just really, really messed me up. And it's so, like I said, it's so weird because these aren't my kids. This isn't my town. This isn't. But like, it's one of these things that I just feel like has affected me really personally. And I feel like silly. I know that it's an emotional thing, you know, but it's like, I still feel kind of silly, but like I'm like, and I do think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's intersecting with my, my nephew's anniversary. And I just think violence against children, there's just nothing more evil. There's nothing more evil. Just fucked.
Detective who were shot early on may have survived had authorities gotten into the classroom sooner. And as this investigation continues, more tragic news from the aftermath of the shooting. Thursday, the family of Irma Garcia, one of two teachers killed, announced her husband, Joe, suffered a fatal heart attack. Their family posting online that the grief of losing his high school sweetheart killed him. They leave behind 4 children, the youngest 13 years old. Here you go. Meanwhile, the community continues to stop by the school and pay their respects. Some parents of the victims, including the father of one 10-year-old girl, insisting police should have done more.
A lot of parents were arguing with the police. It was, y'all need to go in, y'all need to go do your jobs.
And as we come back out here live at the town square, you may be able to see in the distance there that folks are beginning to light candles and placing them in front of the 21 white crosses that are honoring the lives of those 19 students and 2 teachers who died. Now, it's
April Ray said they need to increase the gun age to 21. It's always boys between 15 to 20 years old who are school shooters. Absolutely. No, that I can get behind. You know, we need more men, responsible men, honorable men, men who have families that they love and that they care for and who have already proven themselves as, you know, good and stable citizens in society. Those are the men who should be able to access guns. Women should be able to access guns. We don't need 18-year-old to 21-year-old boys are really, really a scary group. And I know that even just from, you know, in Philadelphia, those are the kids, the vast majority of gun violence in the city of Philadelphia are kids between the ages of 14 and like 21. It really is. It's the 17-year-olds that terrify me. It's the 18-year-olds. They don't have it. You have to be 25 to rent a car. You have to be 25 to rent a car. You know, if our prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, then the fact of the matter is that these kids cannot, literally, physically cannot conceptualize the impact of their decisions. They can't conceptualize and they haven't been out in the world. And again, it's a really traumatic, tumultuous time for the vast majority of kids are transitioning from childhood into adulthood. A lot of these kids might be coming from, you know, unsatisfactory homes or just going through a lot emotionally. No, I agree. I don't think that there is a reason that kids that age, and especially when it comes to like semi-automatic rifles and things like that, that should be like 25. And again, you should have to go through a much more intensive, it's different. Okay, I think people should be able to access like a personal carry handgun, and you shouldn't necessarily have a million barriers around that, because a lot of times those barriers are like weaponized and used to like disarm people. They really are, and to get like easy convictions, and those convictions are hardcore. Those come with like lengthy prison sentences, so they're worth going after for the police. A lot of times the police will just use those for convictions. It's true. But when we're talking about, you know, semi-automatic rifles and things like that, and again, I don't think it should be the government necessarily deciding. I think it should be like local panels of like, if we have the NRA who's so hardcore about it, or whoever, you know, the same way that it should just be a panel of citizens. Take a day, maybe like 1 day a week or a couple days out of the month, you get a panel of people, and they review like one person after another, and they can review, you know, the case and whatever, and decide whether or not they want to agree that this person should have that sort of weaponry in our community. And then we can keep track of who owns these things in our communities. You know, because the fact of the matter is that these gun manufacturers make a lot of money selling these things, you know. And I totally agree with the waiting periods, like Mech was saying, you know, so that somebody can't, if somebody's really itching to get it right now, I need it right now, that's a red flag. That's a red flag.
Worth noting that there are numerous reports of several parents who had been directly confronting law enforcement outside of the school, begging them to go inside. The Wall Street Journal reporting that one woman said that she actually was handcuffed by some U.S. Marshals on scene, but eventually jumped over the fence, went inside the school, and got her kids herself. A spokesman for the U.S. Marshal's office denies those claims. Steve?
All right,
Yeah,
Alex, we've been talking a
of
little bit about the protocols for a school shooter, active shooter, that the protocols now say you got to just go in and take him out. Earlier today, you
Yes.
spoke with a retired police officer about how law enforcement handles.
Oh shit! I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, you said, oh, but the protocols really are they should just go in and take him out. Go the fuck in. First of all, okay, and
Meanwhile, traumatized survivors, elementary school kids.
it's no secret that my boyfriend is like, he's like kind of like he's a felon. He's from the street. He had a really traumatic, like I said, he had his car shot up when he was 20. His friend died next to him. All this sort of stuff. One thing about him that I think is really interesting. One thing about him that I think is really interesting. It's like he's the type of man that will stand up to other shitty men. He's not the type of man who like terrorizes women and children. He's very much like he's a protector. He's always been a natural protector. He was kind of like that with his mom. His mom was kind of like, she was on drugs. She was kind of crazy, but he was always standing up to her. She had like really abusive boyfriends and stuff like that, and whatever. And he kind of like created this complex where he always like wants to like protect women, especially, and kids and things like that. And it's like, even him, this straight guy with fucking face tattoos, I know him. I know he would have run up in there so fast. If it was one of our kids in there, even if it was just the community's kids, would have run up in there so fast. And it's like there's so many mothers I know who would be, like I said, ready to die. Ready to die. I would have been ready to die. My kids were in there. I would have been. Like, I wouldn't blink. I wouldn't have even blinked. You'd have to kill me. You would have to fucking kill me to stop me from going in to pull one of my kids out. And I would kick open the door and just start throwing kids out the window. I'd rather than break their legs. Like, how did we get here? How did we get here? And we're focusing so much on the gun things, and just all the gun shit aside, how the fuck did we get here? That this is even possible. Women are not committing these crimes. The fact of the matter, they're not committing these crimes. Let's just I think that was pretty much the end of it. Let's see.
Later on was that additional officers were called, as well as the tactical team that, and then retreated back outside of the building. And then again, what we found out later on was that additional officers were called, as well as the tactical team that ultimately breached the classroom.
What happened?
Yeah, he's a retired police officer and also a firearms instructor who is now a lecturer to other police departments. And he tells me that, based on the information that he knows, he says it's very difficult to stop something like an AR-15 rifle with a service weapon.
Yeah, that's if you're one-on-one. Yeah, it's difficult to stop. You have a kid who has no real training, who's been probably radicalized on the internet, who's going through a bunch of fucking distress. There's also something called tactical maneuvering, dickhead. And I've seen it. I've seen so many. I should post some. There was a phenomenal video of a guy who went psychotic, went into a grocery store, and he grabbed a little girl out of the shopping cart who was shopping with her mother, grabbed her and held her at knife point. And the tactical team came in. They cleared everybody out. All he was doing was holding the one girl hostage. The mom was obviously hysterical. They called the mom over onto this side. They literally got it where they had a negotiator come, and he was, I gotta find this video. He put a chair, he gave a chair to the other guy, said, here, he kicked a chair over. He said, go ahead and sit down. And he's sitting there with the little girl. He has, I think he was with a knife. And the guy's sitting there communicating with him. He was like, listen, let's just, da-da-da-da-da. And the guy, like, literally starts to, like, move. And the guy's like, listen, I just want to, and all of a sudden just grabbed it, upped it, and shot it. He just upped it and shot it. The way he moved was so, the way that he executed that whole negotiation and the way that he was able to just get his foot in the door fast enough to just, and it was a headshot. It was the most flawless, gorgeous, like, just fluid movement I've ever seen in my life. Like, and then, you know, the little girl gets dropped, and I was like, oh my God. And the fact that it's real is stunning. And there are ways to maneuver. Like, you don't just go bum rush them and start shooting with, you know, one shot rounds, fucking dickheads. Like, you maneuver around somebody. You can take somebody out. You can take somebody out who's armed. And if you have multiple people of you, and you guys have, I have a Teflon hoodie. Like, I have a Teflon hoodie. You guys have helmets and stuff like that. Oh, God. Carmel Mulroy says, everyone thinks they would go in, but would they really? Are you out of your mind? If my children were in there, would I really? I would be so fucking ready to die. If my kids were in a building with an active shooter situation, you're asking me, would I really want to go in? I would be so fucking ready to die. I wouldn't blink. I would die for any one of my kids. Like, to answer your question, yeah, really, I would. Yeah, really. 100,000%. Yeah, really, I would. If it were one of my nieces, yeah, really, I would. I would be so ready to die. My kids? My kids? What? What planet are we on? It would be an honor to die for one of my kids. There is nothing. One of my kids? You better kill me. You better kill me. Because I'll kill you. Totally jacked on adrenaline and unstoppable. You fucking better believe it. You better believe it. I would kick out any window. I would throw my kids out. And I would stay in there and I would just start throwing kids out of windows. I don't give a fuck. If you can, whatever, break your legs or slide them out somewhere, and then you tactically maneuver around, you better kill me. You better kill me. Hell no. Hell no. Got me. I know I'm not supposed to curse on this. This is going to get demonetized. I'll start again tomorrow. You got me fucked up. You better kill me. Would I really? Boy, you better kill me first. Because I will come and oh my God, yeah, you really better kill me first.
Seems to have encrypted the Great Pyramid of Giza into the Vitruvian Man, along with
America. Here we are again. This is not a new night. Recurring one. Another mass shooting, this time Texas. At least 19 children murdered, shot dead with a high-powered rifle. 2 teachers also killed. An elementary school turned killing field. There are new details this evening, none of them good, none of it easy to hear. The best we can hope for tonight is for context. In these early hours, there is no comfort to be had. ABC's Maria Villarreal arrived in the scene in Uvalde, Texas, shortly after the shooting. She joins us tonight.
Byron, this is still a very active scene here at the elementary school, and it'll continue to look like this throughout the night and probably into tomorrow morning as well. We understand right now the Texas Rangers are now leading this investigation. They brought in a mobile crime scene to help process what is happening inside the school. Right now, it was too much for local law enforcement to handle the weight of the tragedy, too much for their hearts as well.
Yeah, no, but it wasn't too. Who gives a shit what the police officers The police, hold on. Is she talking about law enforcement? I don't care. You guys failed. You massively failed. You massively failed. I know soccer moms who would have handled that better than y'all. I know soccer moms. I know motherfucking soccer moms who would pull up in their minivans ready to die better than you people did. I don't want to hear how heavy your hearts are. You failed. You failed. You failed as men. You failed your communities. You failed across the board. And you had the audacity to stop parents from going in. This is Texas. We're talking about Texas. I know there were at least quite a few of those parents who were armed. You didn't want to do it? You better move the fuck over. For somebody who isn't waiting for, oh, well, what's the right angle? I'm going in regardless.
Tonight, horror and heartbreak in this tiny...
Black Swan says moms have lifted cars off their pinned children before. Soccer moms are vicious. Yo, their hell hath no fury. Oh, hell hath no fury over, like a woman scorned by a man. No, fuck that man. Hell hath no fury like a mother trying to protect her child. Women have always stood in the gap between children and male violence. To the teacher who was seen shielding children, she was a mother of 4. Something happens to us during pregnancy. And let me explain this, because there's always, I'll even hear a lot of women and who will say, oh, well, I don't have that motherly instinct. That's not a real thing. This whole idea, though, all women have a motherly instinct. No, there's something that happens to our brains during pregnancy, childbirth, and breastfeeding, and early skin-to-skin bonding and connecting with our children. Breathing our child's pheromones changes the shape of our brains in a way that can never be unchanged. A motherly instinct is something that develops. It's not something you're just born with. It's not something that just, happens. It's something that develops over time, over our hormones that are released when we are breastfeeding, when we are caring for children. And it is something that creates in us this, one of the most powerful natural instincts on the planet. And women have always been the ones to stand in the gap between children and male violence. That teacher who died shielding children. We always think of men as these big, strong, and fearless, and women are the emotional ones and all this sort of stuff. Like I said, it's because men shut down. Women are strong enough to stand inside some of the most emotional things and actually be there, be present, communicate it, talk about it. Women will throw themselves on children. Women will throw themselves. That woman threw herself on children. Died protecting children that were her kids that she taught. That's not even a decision. That's not even a decision. When you're a mother and you're a teacher and you love kids, that's not a conscious decision. That's just something that you are. That's just something you become. You become the barrier that stands between them and hell. And she is a hero. And that's who we need to remember. I'm not putting this asshole's picture up if I can avoid it. I'm not even going to say his name. He should die His name should die with him. His image should die. I don't want to look at him. I don't want to talk about him. I don't want to talk about who he is. People like her are who need to be remembered. Those need to be the face of this. Victory Phoenix says her husband died of heart attack after she died. And that's what happens. It's like, that's when you have like a real strong unit. When you have women who are cared for by their husbands, husbands who are cared for by their families, when you have children that are brought into an impenetrable bond of love and just commitment by a family. And those are the links that create the chain that are woven as the entire community. That's what creates strong communities, so that when there is a weak link, when there is someone who's sick, when there is somebody who's going through something, that can never fall through the cracks. There's too many people who are aware of what's happening. It was, Shinobu Kochal says it was 2 female teachers who died shielding children. I can't think of it like a higher level of heroicism. You know, we're going into Memorial Day and we talk about servicemen who marched into war to fight, you know, these political battles on behalf of whatever. You know, we're talking about men who had training and equipment and, you know, they went into battle. We have teachers. We have teachers who threw themselves onto children, who weren't armed. Would I really have gone in? Hell yes. Hell yes. It is so easy to create evil in this world. It is so easy to perpetuate violence. But to nurture children, to manage the anger that comes from just being in this world, to manage the emotions, to manage all of those things, and to still try to illuminate a path for children to grow in beauty and in peace and in happiness, and to shield them from the hell that is in this world. Like, I don't even have the words for it. These women are more than heroes. And it's like, that's just what a mother does. That's just what a teacher does. That's what women do. That's just what women do. Women have always been the ones. Always been the ones to stand in the gap. And they end up paying the price for male violence. I can't. Oh, her name is Irma Garcia. And if anyone, so Irma Garcia was the one teacher whose husband died. If anyone in the chat can tell me the name of the other one, I want to like repeat their names as much as possible.
South Texas community. Earlier today, a mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, killing at least 20.
Miss Raven says, I will protect my kids with my life. First of all, thank you for the super chat. And you better believe it. And I know you would. Like I said, something happens, something changes as a mother. You know, it's not that women aren't capable of violence or crimes. It's that we you know, it is so much easier to just be nihilistic and perpetuate violence in this world. But to stand in a violent world and be peaceful, to stand in a violent world and in a hideous, ugly world, and to create beauty for children, that's brave. That's brave. That's heroic. That's hardcore. Yes, so many mothers, like I said, so many soccer mothers wouldn't think twice. Soccer mothers armed with a purse and a can of mace would be ready to die will go in there ready to die, ready to stand up to whatever may come. And not just for their own children, but for the community's children, because that's how I feel about the friends of my children. Those are my babies. My nieces are my children. All of my friends, kids, we've been in this community their whole lives. They've grown up with these children. I've known these children since they were babies. These are my babies. And if there's, and kids know that they can come talk to me if they have an issue and they're over my house and they don't feel comfortable telling their parents, and so I can help them talk to their parents. We have a community like that. What else is there? Why wouldn't I die? Why wouldn't I die? What the hell else am I living for? What the hell else am I here for? What the hell else would I need to keep living for if I'm going to sacrifice my children like that? I would have nothing else. Why the hell wouldn't I die for them?
21 people, including 19 children. The deadliest school shooting in nearly a decade, and the third deadliest in America.
Those, Black Swan 1983 says, I read about the woman who was cuffed. She was uncuffed, ran into the school and got her kids out. I want to keep hearing those stories. Whoever has more stories of that, I want to hear about the parents. I want to hear about the mothers, the teachers, the fathers. I want to hear about people who were brave in whatever way, or who are helping kids. I'm so disgusted and angry at the response at these law enforcement what these kids weren't worth saving. What are you saving yourself for if you're just going to sacrifice kids like that? What are you even alive for? She was cuffed because she was freaking out about the cops not going in, and they fucking cuffed her? Oh, you would have to kill me. She jumped the fence and everything. Those are the women I want to hear about. In fact, while this is playing, I want to look
Since
for
Virginia
that.
Tech.
The size of the devastation here, the number of lives lost, is very significant.
It's elementary age kids, 9, 10, totally helpless, totally harmless. They're shot in their own classroom. That image should really burn in people's memory as to we shouldn't have to relive Sandy Hook.
Officials say the alleged gunman, Salvador Ramos, also shot his own grandmother before it.
In the state of Texas.
I don't want to see his face at all. I don't want his name. I agree. Someone said that what was it? Wait, what does it say? Still lots of teachers who seeing their children as their children is a good, not a creepy thing. Yeah, of course it's not creepy. Moody on Rudy said they're supposed to be in loco parentis. I stand in place of parents. They're not technically in loco parentis. And loco parentis is more to do with like if you're like a grandparent and the parent is like not functional and you take over. Like locus parentis means that you have standing to petition for like legally speaking, or at least this is true in Pennsylvania. It's a legal term. It means like legally speaking, you have grounds to file for custody. So it's like, say like a mom has been on drugs and like was never able to really take care of the kids, and like informally the grandparents have always taken care of the kids, but then the mom decides she's like, I want my kids back. They can file an emergency petition for custody, and on the grounds of in locus parentis, meaning like you said, they've stood as the parents. But you're right, like even though that's like the legal way, I feel like, while teachers have kids, yeah, they're standing in for the parents. They're literally like my kids' teachers have loved my kids. My teachers have loved my kids and have known my kids like their whole life. I've had some wonderful teachers for my kids. I've had some of the best teachers in the world for my kids. And I know that they love my kids and that they they know my kids, and they, come to like understand them, and they know how to help them when they need to be helped. And I don't want to hear this scumbag's name. Like, these kids are who I want to talk about. I want to talk about the heroes. I want to talk about the women. I want to talk about the parents, the people who are suffering. I don't want to hear about this scumbag. I don't even want to hear his name.
Among those who lost their lives, 10-year-old Javier Lopez, who was in the 4th grade, his family sharing this photo with us this evening. 19 students were killed and 2 teachers, including 4th grade teacher Eva Mireles.
The school has children that are in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade.
2 responding officers were also shot but are expected to survive. Officials say the alleged shooter was killed by responding law enforcement.
Mr. Romas, the shooter, he himself is deceased and is believed that responding officers killed him.
Good evening, fellow Americans.
Tonight, President Biden speaking to the country on yet.
I swear to God, if he makes this political, like on the first, I swear to God, I haven't heard his address. Actually, I want to listen. I hate him. Let's hear what he has to say about this.
That another mass shooting just days after 10 people were killed in a grocery store in Buffalo, New York.
I'd hoped when I became president I would not have to do this again. Another massacre. Uvalde, Texas. An elementary school. Beautiful, innocent. 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders.
The rampage began late this morning. Officials say the alleged shooter shot his grandmother, then turned to the school at 11:32 a.m. local time.
An 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde.
My question is, so he shot the grandmother, and she was able, he shot her in the face with a non-lethal shot, and she was able to get over to the neighbor's house. Why? How was he still able to just go and walk with a bunch of like artillery, army guns to a school? I wonder what was that distance? How was there not an immediate response? How was he even able to walk that way? Was nobody like, oh yeah, hey, there's a guy with assault rifles walking towards the school? I don't even, calling him Mr. Yeah, he doesn't, yeah, exactly. Why are we calling him Mr. anything? Oh my God. Oh God, you are still here, huh? I hate this guy. This is like a troll. Whatever.
Believe that he abandoned his vehicle.
There's a car crash outside Robb Elementary School. The suspect, we're told, is immediately engaged by a Uvalde Independent School District police officer. And that doesn't stop the shooter. He's wearing body armor. He shoots the police officer and then makes his way inside the school.
We need to respond to South Grove and Mill Street to establish a perimeter.
Multiple state and local law enforcement, FBI, ATF, and Border Patrol racing to respond. Sources say authorities have recovered an AR-15 style rifle and numerous magazines. The school, with some 600 students, locked down. Reportedly, students crawling through windows to escape. Parents desperate for any information.
We just hear all kinds of gunshots going off, like nonstop, like constantly gunshots. And we're over here scared on the ground, fearing for our lives.
In the mayhem.
It just makes me think about my son. Both of my sons. I have an 8 and 11-year-old boys. Especially my oldest son. I feel like my oldest son would really have a hard time processing the fact that he wasn't able to help or do anything. I think he has a really hard time with feeling powerless like that, powerless to help. God damn it. These kids. Oh yeah, Rana, you're right. Rana said he stole her truck and he drove it and crashed it by the school and then walked from there. That blows my mind. Oh, Moody on Rudy says from Wiki, in locus parentis continues to apply to primary and secondary education in the U.S. Oh, okay. Well, but that's interesting though. But then how? Okay, I mean, you know, if that's what it says, you could be right. My understanding was that in locus parentis means that like you have grounds to apply for custody. Although I guess that makes sense because teachers are given a lot more credibility when they report stuff. When they report stuff like, you know, about like abuse or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, that's exactly though. But it's because again, it's like they spend a lot of time with kids during their waking hours when you think about it. Almost more than parents do to a certain extent. They're there for 5 days out of the week for the majority of the day. I mean, they're spending a lot of waking hours with these kids.
Have families trying desperately to reunite with their loved ones. One father here searching for his 10-year-old daughter.
If we could get to the funeral home.
Why would you ask me that?
Because we can't find my daughter.
What does this say about where we are right now? I mean, this is a small town, man.
Pretty sad. Really sad. What this world's coming to.
We're also learning more about who committed this heinous attack. Officials say the alleged killer, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, was a student at Uvalde High School. He's believed to have acted.
We don't care. I don't want to
News that he reportedly sent videos and photos of guns to users on various social media platforms. One user saying that last week he showed himself with guns, making statements like, "Wait till tomorrow."
Law enforcement is collecting every piece of information they can get their hands on in reference to social media, friends, associates, families. What did they see? What did they hear? My guess, even by now, they've probably got a pretty good picture of who he is, what motivated him, and how he acquired like this.
My sons would never be able to get this far. Like I said, my son last year was really depressed. He went through a really tough time because right after I was separated from my husband. And then, well, I mean, we had been separated for a while, but I was literally the month after I was diagnosed with cancer, my nephew passed away. And in like a horrible way too, and really unexpected. And I know he was depressed. And literally he said one time, he had said it to my mom. He had said something, no, this is what happened. He had slept over her house one night. Because sometimes my kids will sleep over at my parents' house. They're very close to my parents. And my mom found him like sitting on his windowsill or something like that, or next to it, or was just doing something really weird. And she was like, and like got really scared and was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "It's nothing. And then later it said, it's like, "I don't want to live anymore." And he said it was because he felt like he couldn't protect his baby cousin. And he was just like, I don't, if one of, like, he says, like, if one of the kids dies, I just don't understand, like, what the purpose of, like, anything is. So, like I said, we got him in, like, really intensive treatment, and I immediately, like, the next day, I had him enrolled in for, like, intensive outpatient, and, he's so much better now. But he sees, like, both my boys see a therapist once a week. Just because after that happened, I was like, I told him, I was like, therapy is for everybody. And I said, I want you to continue this now. Now that we're in here, we're just going to keep it going forever. And they have a really good therapist, and he's great, and the kids, whatever. And it's like, I just told him, I was like, I don't want to wait for there to be a crisis for you to have someone to talk to. I said, we went through a really tough time. You guys are doing a lot better, but, because they're like, why do we have to keep going? And I'm like, I want you to always feel like you have somebody. Like, my son has his number programmed in his phone. And I was like, if you ever have something that you feel like you can't talk to me about, I want you to be able to just know you can text him or call him. But they also have, like, other family that my kids know that they can talk to. And same thing like with me. I try to reach out to the other kids and my kids' friends and things like that, and just try to like make sure that they know that they can always talk to me. And we as the parents have kind of organized that all of our kids have like our numbers stored in their phones, because sometimes in the middle of a moment it would be like sometimes kids are scared to call their own parent, and we want it to be that like if you ever needed to get picked up or there was just something going on and you're scared to tell your parent, you can call one of us and we'll come pick you up. We'll help you talk to your parents or whatever it is. So Thoughtful Creature says not red flags, more like red flares, literally advertising something bad was about to happen. Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. And so I want to talk a little bit about this whole issue of male violence and what's going on. And I think we see this a lot during times of like political unrest. And, we have in America right now, we have our economy is going down, is like in the shitter, and we have a situation where the nuclear family unit, marriage rates are very low. The nuclear family unit is falling apart. Young people are in sort of like an extended adolescence. I know men who are 29 years old, 30 years old, who are still in some sort of extended adolescence. They don't have a career established. They don't have a family. They're not married. They can't hold on to, they haven't been able to like establish or build, a long-term meaning relationship with a woman or whoever else. They're like maybe renting or still living at home. And we know that domestic violence spikes when men lose their jobs. So a lot of times when men lose their jobs or they're underemployed or they're going through some sort of financial thing, are huge red flags and breeding grounds for domestic violence. And I think that Black Swan says during times of poverty, family annihilators become more common. Exactly. So men, whether it's through, and I don't think it's, we see there's like this issue in Japan where men who like when they can't get married and they just don't want to do anything, they become like shut-ins almost. We see the rise of sort of like white nationalist, neo-Nazi stuff going on in Eastern Europe, after the fall of the Soviet Union. And while the economy was really like unstable and things like that, you see these like extremist groups, and it's a lot of these young men. They're unmarried, they're frustrated, they're underemployed. When we have men, again, so much of, and again, I don't want to get into whether or not it's socialized or whether or not, whether it's nature versus nurture or whatever. The fact of the matter is that men do feel a strong need to want to provide and be, it's not normal. It's not normal as human beings to just not accomplish things or not be, functional. It's not normal to just sit around and just kind of scrape by. People want to have purpose. People want to have meaning. People want to have to work hard and accomplish things. And for a lot of men, when they feel like they're not fulfilling their roles or their duties or whatever, they don't have a family, they're not successful in creating, they can't provide for anybody, they can barely provide for themselves. It's a really difficult space for a lot of men to be in, and men start getting frustrated. They feel disenfranchised. They can't envision what their future is going to be. And it's like, it's a lot of anger and resentment. And then it's like, I think the whole world is kind of like, well, what are you doing? And it just starts to build up, and I think we have an issue now where rates of autism are like skyrocketing. And I think that in America, we're in a scary place right now because, as a hegemon, as the current hegemon, we've clearly hit a peak. I don't know that we're going to continue to be a world superpower. Well, a world superpower, yes, but the world hegemon, probably not. And when empires begin to fall and the economy starts to go crazy, and again, we have no family values. We don't value family anymore. Marriage is totally falling apart as an institution. Young men who are the most able-bodied in our society, who are the most emotionally underdeveloped, who have access to a lot, who feel entitled to a lot, start to lash out, and they start to latch on to things that can give them a sense of control when they feel like they have no control in society. April Ray said the shooter's friend said he was angry he didn't graduate high school with his senior class. Wow, that's interesting. Thoughtful Creature says one solution to unemployment is encouraging volunteering, making people's lives meaningful, and giving skills for paid employment. Yeah, absolutely. And again, it is like why I just think that the local community is so important. And it starts with a family. If you are a family and when most families are intact and when most families are strong and when most families, are centered around strong relationships, two functional parents who have relationships with their brothers and sisters and their parents, and you have a strong core nucleus of the family, and then you have, which is surrounded by other strong nuclear families that, together make it a strong extended family. Then when you're in a community where the vast majority of families are strong and functional, you can identify when there's a family that's struggling. Okay, you can identify, like even me, even when I was a newly single mom, a lot of people really reached out to me a lot. I had a lot of moms who were really supportive, who offered to help drive my kids places. I had some fathers in the community who really kind of took my kids under their wing, with sports and mentoring. My kids are especially my one son is really athletic, and he's really good at every sport that he does. And, they kind of knew that we were going through some stuff, and that, especially when I was going through cancer. And, we had the other fathers really step up, and who were great, and they were really supportive of my kids, and it meant a lot to my boys. When boys are allowed to fall through the cracks, when, single moms are just allowed to struggle without this sort of community around them of other functional families and stuff, and they're not there as a safety net, that's when things get dangerous, right? That's when kids are able to fall through the cracks like this. To say that you guys had no idea, you saw no red flags, you couldn't have expected this from them, means somebody wasn't paying attention. Because this stuff doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. Happy people don't do this. Happy people don't do this. And if he was psychotic, then there should have been an immediate recognition. The fact that he was obviously psychotic for a long enough time to get access to these guns, to this equipment. Let's see. Let's see. UK press says he felt left out because family was poor. I suspect drugs, money. Well, yeah, so apparently the mom was a drug addict. I think, didn't Rana say that earlier? Unemployment in the long term. The government here is paying for second career training. USA is not beginning to fall. We are way past mid-fall. Yeah. Moody says, with everything outsourced to cheap labor in China, where are the jobs for ordinary? Oh, that's another thing that I wanted to talk about. One thing about America that makes America so toxic. It's what makes America so unique, and it's what makes it so toxic. America is really built around exceptionalism. If you are exceptional, if you are an exceptional sports athlete, if you are, a renowned actor, or if you have some just really unique, special, crazy thing about you, you just, whatever. And this is why the transgenderism thing, I think, really spiked in America. Because America really prizes the uber exceptional. If you're, so you're some genius kid and you developed some new, programming thing, or, you built Facebook, you're Mark Zuckerberg, or, it's the kids who get into these top Ivy League schools, and we prize exceptionalism and we overemphasize individualism. It's about the individual being exceptional rather than the group being healthy and whole. No, we always look at our movies. Look at what Hollywood likes to highlight. Look at the traditional storytelling. It's always the one person who on their own was, heroic, or on their own went and did some amazing thing, or had some crazy life adventure, or we look at Elon Musk, who single-handedly became a billionaire and created all this stuff, and we prop up people who are exceptional, who are great, and from an early age we tell kids you can be anything, and you can be the best, and you can be the president, and you can, whatever. That's why you have kids, and I always talk about it with my boyfriend. It's even like you look at kids in the hood. Whenever you talk about like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like, I want to be a rapper. I want to be like NBA Youngboy, or I want to be like Kobe Bryant, And we're looking at, who do we look at on the TV all day? Is these very rare, very extreme, exceptional people who are handpicked. And if you are one of these people, then America is a gold mine. People around the world will send their most exceptional here, and they can prosper and be amazing. Nobody wants to do the long, slow, boring build. I know so many young people, even people like into their 20s and early 30s, who have no career established, who have worked just some random jobs and things like that, and you offer them a job opportunity, and they'll take one look at it and they'll decide that it doesn't pay enough, and that it's not interesting enough, and it's too many hours, and people really feel entitled to have some, they want to already be getting some like top salary, and they want to work some really interesting, exciting job. People say, it seems boring, or it's not interesting enough, and you're just kind of like, how is it that you feel entitled to having some amazing high-level career already? You have no job experience. You have no real life experience. You haven't been proven that you're able to take care of anything. You've just kind of like fucked off for the past decade. And yet you're still so pick and choosy about what kind of, that's not good enough for me, or that's not paying enough, or that's not this. And every kid enters with this sense of entitlement. Then I only want to do it if it's going to be that exceptional, amazing, whatever opportunity. And it's so toxic, because it's like kids are not looking to these just average heroes, these people who, my father was a really kind of an exceptional person, but in like a really kind of just regular way. He grew up extremely poor, grew up in like a working class Polish neighborhood. His dad was disabled, but had worked in a lumber yard, and then later became disabled. And my dad was just a very consistent person. Him and my mom got married really young, when they were like 20. They had 3 kids, and it was like he worked and he built a company, and he ended up building like a really successful company. But one thing about my dad is my dad still works as if he's one day away from losing it all. my mom used to always say he needs to like accept that he's fine. He's made it. We have a safety net now. Like he always works. He's like, he works as though like his kids might not be able to eat tomorrow if he doesn't. Right. And he's so consistent. And so he gets up every day at the same time. My dad never misses work. My dad never misses, you know, he just grinds. And kids today don't want to do that. They don't want to grind. Even moms don't want to, you know, and a lot of like people complaining about like, oh, a lot of like the domestic chores and stuff like that. Men and women, they don't want to do the domestic chores. They don't want to take care of a home. Half the time they don't want to take care of a family. You know, we're looking at people on social media. We're comparing our lives to all this like exceptionalism, and 99% of the time, none of it's real anyway. You know, we're looking at a highlights reel of somebody's life, and even the highlights reel is bullshit. It's all fabricated. You know, and people are comparing themselves, and it's like people want to skip from the absolute bottom rung all the way to the top, and it messes with people's sense of self. It messes with their sense of fulfillment, happiness. Males, you know, we have the whole incel issue where males who feel very entitled to sex. They feel very, very entitled to having a woman or having, you know, getting married or having a woman carry children for him, whatever. And again, when the fact of the matter is, traditionally, earning a woman and earning a wife and earning a woman who making yourself worthy enough for a woman to want to choose you has been a huge, almost lifetime commitment. As a young man, you know, young men aren't chosen because you need to cultivate yourself. You need to build something. You build a nest. You build, you know, a safe, secure safety net so that when a woman, if she's going to give her fertility to you and render herself nearly disabled, because again, you can't, when you're a mother, when you're pregnant, birthing and breastfeeding, you're not going to be able to work at high capacity. You're literally going on almost hiatus for this man to carry this man's child. He better fucking have a safety net for you. He better be able to make sure that you're safe and comfortable and protected and provided for. And you don't just hope that he can figure it out once you get pregnant. That's why women traditionally will choose a man who's already established. That's why traditionally we more often see younger, you know, we always talk about, oh, older men are choosing young women. No, young women are also choosing older men because older men are usually more established and have proven like, I can provide, I can create this so that you can feel comfortable getting pregnant and carrying a child with me, right? Because I prove that I can provide for you. A lot of these men don't want to put in the work. They don't want to put in the years of work that it takes to prepare themselves to be worthy of having a family, to be worthy of earning a partner who wants to marry him and wants to commit and give her fertility to him. That is the number one biggest sacrifice a woman will ever make in her life is to carry a child for a man. And the biggest honor that a man will ever be given in his entire life is for a woman to choose him to carry a child for him. Now we're at a point where we just throw all of that away, right? But a lot of men, again, come with this sense of entitlement of like, they don't want to do the work. We want to go straight forward there. So when men don't have one of the hardest ages as a man, I think, to be is, again, even like Metch was saying, which is why we need to have waiting periods and raise the age. Because men who are 18, 19, 20, 21 look fully developed as men. Their brains are not fully developed. They're full of testosterone. They're sexually frustrated. They're full of like this aggressive sexual energy. They don't have a lot of money. Women aren't checking for them. Girls, you know, women their age aren't checking for them. Women are usually checking for men who are more established. And I've even I remember I like mentored this one kid about this, and I was like, now is not your time to reap the life that you like to cultivate and reap the life that is eventually going to be your ultimate life. Rather than dwelling and feeling frustrated, now is a time as a young man is for you to develop yourself. Become the thing. Because he was like, oh, girls don't want me. They always want older guys. I was like, right. Because what do you think those older guys were doing when they were your age? They probably realized that they weren't going to get picked. Or if they were going to get picked, they were going to get picked from women that, they weren't interested in, right? They were spending time developing themselves. And when you have men at that age who don't have any sense of direction or purpose, who can't see the long, and this is also why fathers are so important, because fathers are supposed to be there to lay the blueprint in a way that mothers can't. Boys need men, point blank, period. And it sounds like this kid had a drug addicted mother, so I don't know what the story is with his father, and was raised primarily by the grandmother. We know that the same-sex parent is the most influential person on a child's life. So for girls, that's the mother. For boys, that's the father. When you were a young man or a boy, and you've been a boy who never really had a male blueprint, and you're looking around you for trying to get an idea of where you should be in the world, you're looking at things like social media and the internet, and you're comparing yourself to all this exceptionalism that's around you, and then you look at your own life and you never had a more realistic blueprint shown to you, like, hey, listen, success takes good habits. Success is not something that just happens. It takes habits, things that are done every single day, that are committed to, that are followed through on, and over time you build. It's like they want the right here, right now, and if you're not going to give it to me now, then I'm just going to just take it out on everybody. So yes, all of the woke representatives of identities, when who cares about ordinary people or slave laborers? Exactly. And that's what a lot of this woke shit is creating these special, unique, exceptional identity for people who are otherwise just regular, otherwise just ordinary. And that's not a bad thing. It's okay to be regular. It's okay. We can be exceptional in your own life. Work towards something. A lot of the most amazing people I know, and some of my biggest personal heroes, for example, is this one woman, Jerry Gunderson, who ran the birth center that I worked at in the Philippines. She is my hero. If I had to go back to 5th grade and write, who's my hero, she would be my hero. She is a woman she had 6 children. Her and her husband were Christian missionaries when they were very young, and they traveled the world. Oh shit, hold on. This is the cancer center. All right, hold on. We'll play this for a second. I gotta take this. This is an important call.
AR-15, located 80 miles west of San Antonio.
Hello.
Uvalde is a small town with just over 16,000 people living here. Robb Elementary School has about 600 students in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades. The school's last day was supposed to be this Thursday. The close-knit community, tonight, feeling the shock. Today's shooting comes amid what seems like an explosion of violence across the country. Just 10 days after a racially motivated mass shooting in Buffalo, New York, where another 18-year-old killed 10 people, all black, at a top supermarket.
He shot a woman, he shot a deacon, he shot another woman, and then he went in the store and started shooting again.
This tragedy also drawing a parallel to the horrifying mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, nearly a decade ago. That killer shooting his mother in their home before driving to the elementary school and killing 20 school children and 6 teachers. Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, who represented Newtown's district in Congress when the tragedy occurred, tonight giving an impassioned speech from the Senate floor.
What are we doing? Our kids are living in fear every single time they set foot in a classroom because they think they're going to be next. What are we doing? Nowhere else does that happen except here in the United States of America, and it is a choice.
Sorry. I forgot this was up here.
It is our choice to let it continue. What are we doing?
It's become a sobering, shattering reality in this country, from Columbine to Virginia Tech to Newtown and Parkland. Now too many generations.
What's the common denominator here, though? What's the common denominator, Beto? It's men. It's men. Women have the same access to these guns. It's men. Even if we get rid of all of the guns, men can create explosives. Look at the Middle East. Look at Europe. Europe's always talking about, oh, you know, we don't have guns. We don't have da 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 da. We see bombings in Europe, knife attacks and stuff like that. Men are going to find ways to enact violence, and these guns are already in circulation. We need to really get to the root. And also, somebody else made a good point, and I know that there's a lot of controversy around this, and I think it's like kind of true. Somebody's like, we protect our money with guns, we protect celebrities with guns, we protect everything that we value with guns, yet we protect children with signage. And it's kind of true. It's like, why, you know, everywhere else you have, even the mall has security guards. Why wouldn't schools have security guards? Or at least like an officer that, like, the schools should have a police officer that's just stationed outside. Why wouldn't there be that? Why wouldn't every community have a police officer that's specifically stationed for the school? You know, there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, there's not just for the idea that, oh, the school's gonna get shot up, but also just sometimes fights happen or situations happen. I don't understand why that wouldn't be a thing. Let's see. What's a con? Hold on, I want to see what you guys were talking about. Let's see. Thanks, Moody. So Poonan says exceptionalism is a real American problem. Yes. Yeah, no, I think that that's a big part of it. It's like we're selling this idea that everyone has to be so super special or you're nothing. You're not worth even looking at. It's like, and it gets reinforced. That's why a lot of bad behavior gets reinforced by social media, because only, you know, the normal guy who, I don't know, is just doing a pretty good job at work and comes home and takes care of his kids and, you know, is just doing the right thing. I mean, no one's checking for him. It's like, oh, if you're real good looking, or if you have, like, you know, if you want to sit there and exploit your family and put them all over the internet and have them perform for the camera and do all these cute little skits and stuff, then maybe you can get some recognition for it. You know, or here's another option. You could be like, you could be transgender and everybody can say how stunning and brave you are. And oh, wow. And you can just sit there and talk about your gender identity day in and day out. And everybody can be so amazed and high five you. Or, you know, people always want to just like latch on to whatever thing that they think makes them special. And it's like, we end up like reaffirming just these like negative narcissistic traits in each other, whereas people who are just having like these normal slow cooking lives, you know, some success is not overnight. Some success takes a lifetime. Like I was talking about the woman who I really look up to. When she was young, they started doing missionary work and they started building. First they lived in Afghanistan for like years, and they built like a birth center over there. They built a birth center in Afghanistan first, and then they had built like the same way that they had in the Philippines, like an orphanage that was attached to it. They worked there for many years in the local community and helping people, and then, you know, they ended up going to the Philippines and doing the same thing. And then her husband died and she took over and she kept everything going. And I mean, she's done now you look back and it'll just of a lifetime of just being in service to other people, but mostly being in service to women and children. And that's not something that you just do in one day. That's not something you know, and everybody wants to like, we love youth in this country, you know? So it's like they always want to show, oh, look who, you know, became a millionaire by the time they were 25. That's like the whole like millionaires, like the top 30 under 30, like most rich and amazing people Forbes list always comes out with. You know, this stuff is so unrealistic and it's so toxic. Mex says it's very difficult to guide young men that have no sense of the future, but when policy decisions mean they might not have one, then we need to fix the policy. Yeah, exactly. And that's why when the economy starts to get messed up, it's a really bad sign for everybody. Because again, men really struggle with being unemployed and underemployed and unable to provide for themselves and unable to, you know, again, they can't start to build a family. Like we act like having a family is not a fundamental drive of all human beings. It's like, I know people roll their eyes when I talk about, oh, like men want to have a family and have a wife and have children, as if that's not a fundamental drive of all human beings. What do you think sex drive comes from? Sex is a procreative act. You know, I think of sex as just like, oh, it's just like, you know, a fun thing. There's a reason why we are so driven to do it. It's rooted in our drive to reproduce. Hello. You know, the fact of the matter is the vast majority of people are going to have children. And we're not like, now kids are just getting like, people are just getting pregnant and then just trying to like, you know, patchwork together a family around it. And it's like, it leads to a lot of frustration. It leads to a lot of like just poor planning and just disconnection. It's a lot. It's a lot. April Ray says, America is the entertainment capital of the world. We have music, movies, fashion, sports heroes. That's what we represent to the world. Exactly. All these big super things. It's not the average person doing average things and leading a quiet, nice life, or, you know, going down and coaching football with the, you know, the younger kids, or, you know, no one's noticing the guy who's reaching out to the, you know, like the kid whose mom just got diagnosed with cancer and whose parents are divorcing. You know, those are heroes. Those are amazing men. But no one's checking for that. Oh, the guy who spent a little extra time mentoring somebody, you know, a kid after school or whatever. Or one of his, you know, the mom who noticed that her son's friend was not himself and took time to like sit down and talk to him and connect with him, and, you know, reached out to his mom to let her know that like, hey, I've noticed that he hasn't been feeling, you know, been himself. Is everything okay? You know, do you need help supporting him? You know, all of those sort of things. It's like all those sort of things that make for a healthy society is not what we value. We value like quick success and cheap sexual interactions and being jerks, being narcissists. April says that's because none of those careers require development. No need to train people. No need to promote within for that. No need to pay for education with that. Yeah, exactly. No need to like, again, everybody wants to, we're in an instant gratification culture. We want it now. And if I can't get it now, I'm going to throw in a tantrum. I'm so frustrated. We have ADD. ADD is so exacerbated and exaggerated, like just made worse by television, by the amount of screen time they get with these quick, fast news bites. People can't even read books anymore. We're reading a lot, but we're just reading these little tiny little bites. The way we consume information now is so different. It's like, if you ever even watch when you're watching TV, take mental note of all of the edits and the cuts and the transitions, and tell me if you think that mirrors anything in reality or in the normal pace of life. We don't have a quick cut to, oh, looking at him and looking at him, and we cut to another scene, and then it's only the interesting parts, and then, you know, to the point where we get so bored with the normal pace of life because our brains are so hyper activated by these like really fast moving. That's why showing children under the age of 2, like children under the age of 2, the American Academy of Pediatrics should have 0 screen time, should never watch TV. It literally rewires our brains because it is so dissimilar to the normal pacing of life. It changes our need for hyperstimulation. We need so much to be satisfied, or else we get bored and restless and frustrated and we can't focus. It's a problem. Ari says it's patriarchal programming of men and boys is the problem. Yeah, no, I agree. And the level of entitlement, it's a culture of abuse and the power structure we live in. And yeah, and it's, yeah. It's like when you put it that way, it just seems like such an uphill battle, and it is. Rana says ADHD is so much worse now because of the culture, like TikTok kids. Like I thought it was bad just when it was like YouTube and it was like, oh, these kids are just watching these 10-minute videos. Now it's like 15 seconds. They can't even allow a thought to develop before it's like on to the next. And it's like, you know, whatever you can do, you be as ridiculous as possible to catch somebody's attention fast enough. I get a lot of people complaining that my like streams are really long or that my videos are too long and they want shorter videos. And it's like, but these issues are so complex. We need time to really get into them. You know, I can't. I'm sorry, I'm not good at doing the, like, that's why I would never be good at TikTok. I'm not good at, like, doing make the quick point, do the quick soundbite. It's like I need to really unpack stuff and analyze stuff and read what you guys are saying and go through stuff. It's just about to end this soon because I actually do got to get going. But my analytics show most folks watch 12 to 14 minutes of my videos. Yeah, that's my average, too. My average is exactly that. Even on my like, sometimes they're a little bit longer if the stream is longer, but yeah, that's my average too. You read about colonial times where kids had a singular wooden toy and they would play with it for hours and they would be entertained. Yes. And that's why, again, and another thing is too, it's like even people are seen as so disposable. People don't even have enough of a attention span to develop real meaningful relationships with each other. They always want, on to the next person even. Oh, okay, I know everything about you. You're boring. Or, I'm over it. You know, people don't even cultivate like a long enough awareness with each other. And it's like there's so many of these quick, fast, cheap relationships. You can always find somebody. Shinobu Kuchao says, I always watch the whole thing. Thank you, Rana. I appreciate you. Mex says, all of my thoughts are long form. I'm not a person that thinks in quick quips or expresses myself that way. No, me neither. No, and I feel like you and I are similar in that way. I feel like we've got to be like around the same age. But I guess I'm going to start to wind this down. I guess my point, you guys, is before I do, actually, I want to show, let's just take a look really fast at I want to just look really quick at who the victims are. Hopefully this is 1 hour ago, so hopefully this is Maite Rodriguez. Oh God, I'm gonna just fucking cry again. Oh. Her favorite color was green and she loved McKenna Elrod. She had the biggest heart and she loved her family and friends so much. I'll try to post some of the links to like these GoFundMes and stuff. Eliana Cruz Torres, who was 10. Let's see, Pastor Jamie, his grandniece was a victim of the shooting. She was active and generous with her time. Oh, God. She was excited to play in her last softball game of the season. I talked to her last night and she was kind of nervous, saying that it was her last game and she didn't want softball to end. Alethea Rodriguez, who was 10. Jose Flores, who was 10. Tess Marie Mata. Let's see if I can close this stupid thing. I can. My sweet baby sister, I would have never thought I'd be typing something like this. I honestly have no words, just sadness, confusion, and anger. I'm sad because we will never get to tag team on mom and dad again. And tell each other how much we mean to each other. I'm confused because how can something like this happen to my sweet, caring, and beautiful sister? And I'm angry because a coward took you away from us. Sissy, I miss you so much, and I just want to hold you and tell you how pretty you are. I want to take you outside and practice softball. I want to go on one last family vacation. This is the teacher. Oh God. This is the teacher Irma Garcia, who I guess the police reports was that she was seen shielding children. She was a teacher for 17 years. And then her husband died, they said, of a broken heart afterwards. Irma Garcia's nephew, John Martinez, shared that she did not make it in a tweet on Tuesday. Damn it, sorry, stuff keeps popping up. My Thea did not make it. She sacrificed herself protecting the kids in her classroom. I beg of you to keep my family, including all of her family, in y'all's prayers. Irma Garcia is her name. And she died a hero. She'll be loved and by many and truly be missed. Garcia was a wife and had 4 children of her own, according to GoFundMe page. Yeah, guys, I'll post the GoFundMes and stuff so that people can, if you want to support these families. 2 days later, her husband Joe died of an apparent heart attack in a short time after laying flowers at the memorial site. I truly believe Joe died of a broken heart. These poor kids lost both their parents in one go. Nevaeh Bravo. Oh, God. They posted on Facebook that her family was looking for. Could you imagine looking for your child and just like praying to God, like, please, please? Could you fucking imagine? Would I really go up in there? Would I really? If my kids were, you fucking out of your mind? Oh my God. I would be so ready to die. Miranda Mathis. They're so little. They're like the ages of my kids. Jace Carmelo. Luivanos. My son's name is Carmelo. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Jackie Cazares. She said his daughter died in the shooting. We're devastated in ways I hope no one ever goes through. Taken out of arms and lives in this freaking cowardly way. So young, so innocent, full of life and love. It hurts us to our souls. We thank everyone from the bottom of our hearts for your love, support, and prayers. My baby girl will always be with us and those who she has touched. May your passing not be in vain. Something will be done, I promised you. Be in peace with the rest of the angels, sweetheart. Daddy, mom, sister, brother, and the whole family are going to miss you forever. Baby girl, we love you with all of our hearts. Jaila Nicole Silguero, who's also 10. Like, I don't know. I don't know what is going on. God, a family member said she didn't want to go to school Tuesday, believing something bad would happen. Her mom, Veronica Lueros, told Univision, according to AP, one of Silguero's cousins was killed. Alexandria Lexi, Anaya Rubio. Oh, babies. Babies. And I just wonder, it's like, I'm not into making this about race, right? But it just seems like this is kind of like a, not like a super wealthy community. It was just middle class community. I feel like a lot of these kids are Mexican immigrants. You know, did that have an impact on the response time? Are these police from the community? And that's another thing too. I found out even like in my community, the police are not from here. And that used to make me mad. And it's like, I kind of feel like if you're going to serve a community, they should really try to put police. I mean, I know that maybe puts a risk for like corruption or something. I don't know. But it's like, you should be serving the community that like you're a part of, that you know, again, we want men who are ready to like die for their community, you know. Layla Salazar 10. Could you just imagine the feeling of like not being able to protect your child, and especially from some like coward like that who, if you really had an opportunity, you could have taken out so easily. That's the worst part. Layla loved to swim and dance to videos on her TikTok. Her father told the AP, an avid runner, she runs 6 races at the school's field day, and Salazar proudly posted a photo of Layla showing off 2 of her ribbons on Facebook. Oh, cuddly girl. You know, and it's, you know, another thing that's really just sad. It's like, my kids have such, I don't even know how my son finds out about stuff, but I had asked him, I like sat with him yesterday. I was like, you know, did you hear what happened in Texas? Just because he always hears about stuff. He's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, how do you already know? I was like, how does it make you feel? And he was like, it's just scary. He's like, it's scary. I think about, like, of course, the first thing he said is like, I think about if the girls or Carmelo had to go through something like that, they'd be so scared and like wouldn't know what to do. I'm like, yeah, but you too. You know, these kids should just be worried about playing with their friends, just trying to develop healthy habits, you know, just play sports, have fun, be kids. They're about going into the summer. Eliana Garcia, oh Oh, baby girl, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. She was very happy and outgoing. A 5th grade teacher at Flores Elementary. And you notice the vast majority of these kids are girls too. I think it was like 14 of the victims were girls, and plus the 2 women. And then I think 5 or 6 were, I mean, not the, and the little boys too. I just wonder, I want to know more about why. Amory Joe Garcia, and what a coward to go, if you went to the like high school, you have more of a chance of like some boys, stepping up and like trying to bum rush you or something. To go after such a vulnerable, defenseless group, you were just a scumbag. Angel Garza's stepdaughter Amory was just 2 weeks past her 10th birthday. She was shot and killed in her 4th grade classroom. Her parents aren't sure what to tell what her 3-year-old brother. That's another thing. My kids are so close with each other because I have 2 boys and then I have 2 girls, and like they love each other. They are best friends. They would like do anything for each other. And that's another thing that's so heartbreaking too, is like you're surviving children having to deal with that. Rogelio Torres, oh, Peanut, 10. Oh, Peanut. So they really must have hit one classroom like hard. Could you imagine being one of the kids in that classroom? Xavier Lopez. Sorry, Peanut. I'm so sorry. He looked forward to a summer of swimming. He was just a loving 10-year-old little boy, just enjoying life, not knowing this tragedy was going to happen. Annabelle Rodriguez, 10. Oh, honey. Uzia Garcia, 8. And his family was looking for him, the sweetest boy that I've ever known. Eva Mireles, 44. Women stand in the gap. And women pay so much of the tax on male violence. So much of the tax. So much of the tax. Dear Chimera says, "Hi Britt, did you see the clip where they admitted some cops went in to save their own kids and then left?" That's what I was saying, is like, even as a civilian, I would go in and like I probably would go for my kids first. That's human nature. But as a police officer, no, you don't have that right. But then to leave, I would get my kids the hell out of there. The thing is, I love my kids' friends. I love my kids' friends. I couldn't push past one of their friends and be like, "Excuse me." I love my kids' friends. I love my kids' friends. I've been with these babies since they were babies. I've had them in my house. I've watched them grow up. I've been a part of their lives for years. No, I couldn't. Oh my God. So I was saying, like, even like I said, my boyfriend, who's just like really like some street guy. He's, like I said, he's a felon. Like, even he, I know, has more. I've seen him step up for people. He's just like, it naturally just helps people. Yeah, I remember there was like one time, I was at a stop sign. He jumped out of my car and he was like, "I'll be right back." And this woman and like was stuck in an intersection because her car had broken down and she had like 2 little kids in the car, and he like helped push the car out of the way and like grabbed some other guy. I was like, you come help me. And I was like, what? And, you know, and they were just sitting in the intersection and people were just driving right by and she was crying and he like gave her his phone and then like, you know, he had the kids go sit in the car with me and was like, you know, here you want to sit in here with the air conditioning because it was like in the middle of July and it was really hot. And I was like, yeah, they can come sit right here. You know what I mean? And it was like, it was just without a second thought, you know, he just always is like intervenes. And the thing is, he doesn't bully women and children. He'll bully other men. Like he steps up to other men. He'll say shit to other men. As it should be. It's like men should be there to keep each other in check. He doesn't go after vulnerable people. He protects vulnerable people. I know he would have, he's just a really fearless person. I know he would have just been like, I'm going in. You know, he's always been somebody who runs towards stuff. And I mean, I get mad at him sometimes because he almost has like a hero complex where sometimes I'm like, you gotta just stop. You know, just let people, sometimes people don't even appreciate, like, you know, and I'm like, you are so self-sacrificing, but it's like, he would die for a whole school of kids, you know, and like, he's just somebody from the street, and I'm just a mom, but that's enough. If we're not gonna die for our kids, what the hell are we doing? What are we? What are we? Eva Mireles was a 4th grade teacher at Robb Elementary School. And she's one of the first people to be identified as family and police. She was an educator for 17 years and loved running and hiking. She was adventurous. I would definitely say wonderful things about her. She's going to be very missed. Let's see. My heart will be forever broken. My sweet mommy, I'll miss you forever. Sorry, God. Let's see. Is that all of the... Did we see all of them? I don't want to miss anybody. Yeah, I think that was it. All right, guys. I'm going to go. I'm sorry I'm such a mess right now. I know this is like a really unprofessional stream. I don't know why this is bothering me so much. I guess it's just because I don't know. I just think I'm also tired from having COVID last week. I still feel like crappy and just tired. And if I said it's my nephew's anniversary from when he passed away, and I can't. Like, when it comes to kids, I can't. And I also read somewhere that like they find that a lot of these guys who get involved in school shootings, again, it's like a cultural thing. They will find that they were like really obsessive about like Columbine and the Parkland shooting, and will get really obsessive about these other events. And again, it's like there's a social contagion factor, and I believe that because I think male violence manifests in so many different ways. Like male violence, like I said, in the inner city, and we see a lot of black male violence takes on a very specific shape. They're also shooting, they're, you know, executing each other. And you know what they call it in Philadelphia? They call it, like, they say game time. They call it, there's like, all right, here's an example. On Instagram, there's an account called Philly Scoreboard. And they'll post news clips of people who've gotten killed in the streets, shot in the streets. And they call it scoreboard because they call it scoring on each other, right? When it's like you have these like warring neighborhoods and stuff and warring groups of boys and men, they say they'll score. If they kill somebody, they call it, we scored, we went up, you know. And they treat it, they like basically say it's like a big game. It's a citywide game. Like even if you listen to the rap songs, it's like, oh, when the ops came down and blew the whistle, I knew it was game time. They got mad, like, he's got mad when they killed one of ours, and then we got mad and went up like 30. I know that none of them made it out of surgery. So it's, again, there is like a cultural component. You know, same thing if you even look at like in the Middle East. If you look at, you know, with the Islamic State and ISIS, the Caliphate, you got a lot of these men who are suicide bombing. You know, there's a culture of violence. And again, and I think it happens with a powerlessness, and there's a powerfulness that comes when you have lethal weapons. You know, when you feel powerless as a man, because again, men feel so entitled to power. They feel entitled to being in control. And when they don't feel like they're in control, one very powerful way to feel back in control is to lead, you know, with fear and with weaponry and that sort of coercion. Oh God. So yeah, anyway. Mech says, I saw the video of the cop admitting cops went in for their own kids and left on status quo. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Actually, no, let's watch that really quick. Let's fucking watch that, because that shit makes me mad. And let's watch that really quick. All right. Let me think. What would it be called? Let's see. Uvalde police admit to rescuing own kids. Let's see. Because that... Yeah, no, we need to look at that really quick. Oh, of course they deny it. Oh, of course you deny it. Yo, they're first of all, they are doing cleanup. If anybody watched the one guy the press conference, and he keeps saying over and over, oh, you know, he entered an unlocked door. You already know. He's trying to shift blame by saying, oh, a door was unlocked. Well, you know, if you went through an unlocked door unobstructed, shut the fuck up. Your officers shit the bed. They failed their communities. They failed in their role. All of you should be cleaned out and replaced. You are not fit to serve. Yeah, here we go. Let's see it really quick. A rumor alert. I guarantee you that's not a rumor. I don't give a fuck if they're gonna call it a rumor. Let's see. God, I hate these people sometimes. I really do. Snopes. Oh God, I hate Snopes. Snopes is so biased. Let's see. I'm just trying to find. Wait, oh, here, hold on. Whoops, sorry. I gotta bring up the video again. Damn. Hold on. Alright, okay. Let's see. Alleged they saved their own kids from robs for stopping shooter. Let's see. I want to see the video. Is this it?
Border Patrol agent was struck with gunfire. A few officers shot. We've heard that some law enforcement officers actually went into school to get their kids out. Can you talk about that?
Right, so we do know, Vanessa, right now that there was some police officers, families trying to get their children out of the school because it was an active shooter situation right now. It's a terrible situation right now. And of course, just as we mentioned, the loss of life, it's just terrible. It's a terrible tragedy now that took place. But again, we got to keep acknowledging those brave men and women that actually were there on scene.
Yeah, how about we acknowledge the brave, not the men and women who are on scene jerking off in front of the building because they were too afraid to go in. Let's go and acknowledge the parents, the mother who was handcuffed, fighting her way to get into that building, who you wouldn't allow in. Oh my God. I'm so terrified that they'll come for our guns. I want to have the right to protect myself and my loved ones. Having a gun has saved my life in so many ways. Okay? Without even giving too many details, I had to make it very known to my ex-husband, who used to just walk into my house and assaulted me on more than one occasion, would get in these rages and show up into my house and literally walk in when my kids wouldn't be there. One thing about him was he was always good at doing it when my kids weren't there, which I'm glad that they weren't there. But it's just whatever. He used to walk into my house. And I don't always lock the doors so that when my kids come home, they can just come in and whatever. I don't want to constantly lock every door in my house. I'm always coming in and out. I spend a lot of time outside. It wasn't until I got a firearm that stopped happening. Because he did it one time and I made it very clear, made a very loud and clear statement that you're never going to do this again, that this is trespassing, and under castle doctrine, if you put your hands on me again in my house, I have every right to use force to protect myself. So you be well advised to stay the fuck off my property. Additionally, I had two other situations. I had a situation in Philadelphia where I actually had to pull a gun on somebody, cock it, and be very, very back the hell out of here. Leave me alone. And then there was one other time that I basically had to do one of these. This guy was driving and it was a road rage situation, and he was crazy, and he I guess because I had to get over, and I kind of just finally got it. He wasn't gonna let me over, and I had to get over, so I was I'm getting over. And then acted like I cut him off and was screaming and giving me the finger and stuff. And then he basically tried to he was driving alongside of me, and then basically tried to force me to pull over. And I finally, because I knew I had it on me, so I was you know what? You want me to pull over? We'll pull over. He got up ahead of me. He literally got out of the car and was oh, da 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 da, yelling at me and stuff. And I got out of the car. I was what are you going to do? What are you going to hit me? What would you like to do? Fight me, sir? You want to fight me? You want to fight me? And I was and he screaming oh, you cut me off. Fuck's wrong with you? You know, da 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 da. And I was sir, you want to fight me? I'm not going to fight you. I don't fight grown men. And I was and just so you know. And then he was all right, never mind, never mind, my bad. No, never mind. And got back in his car and drove off. My heart was racing. He was literally walking towards me he was gonna put his hands on. I don't know what he was thinking in his mind. I don't know if he was gonna hit me. People kill people in road rage situations. People get psychotic. Okay? So even just the presence of having one has made me feel safer. Philadelphia is the murder capital of the U.S. right now. The street that my boyfriend grew up on, that my brother-in-law, his little brother is 12. I know that sounds crazy because he's 34. He has a 12-year-old brother. I love his brother, close to him, close with his cousins. He lives with his aunt because obviously my brother's mom is very mentally ill. We go visit them. They live on a street that has a very popular Philadelphia rapper named D4M Sloan. I actually really like his music. But named D4M Sloan, okay? And he had a rapping partner called D4M Sciano. Sciano was killed almost 2 years ago now. 2 summers ago. Since that happened, there's been warfare between I'm not going to say what street it's on, between our street and other streets. And like I said, one thing about Philadelphia, and I follow a lot of this stuff. I follow a lot of Philadelphia threads. I follow Philly Wiki on Reddit. I follow a lot of YouTube channels and a lot of the low key Instagram pages. And there's a trend on YouTube where they take video clips of each other, and same with like Philly Scoreboard and Only the Steppers on Instagram. They take clips of each other trying to punk each other, and they'll record it. So they had one where they said, oh, D4M's goons were like made to strip down. They went on his street. Again, this is down the street for where my family lives. Made a bunch of these like kids who live on the street take their clothes off, strip down, like hold their dicks in their hand, and they did it at gunpoint. They had Glocks and were laughing and filming it and made them run down the street. And they do this sort of stuff back and forth to each other. And I always tell my little brother-in-law, and I tell my cousin, and I'm like, keep him off the street, period. And it's so sad that they can't even go outside anymore. And I'm like, if you guys ever want to stay with me, whatever. When I go down there, I don't want to go down there without a weapon. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. And it's not, and again, and it's not just about protecting myself against other people who have weapons. You know, because again, you have to understand, like, you get robbed or something, men can overpower women. A lot of men can kill women with their hands. Domestic violence situations, people trying to rob you. I feel so much more secure. There's a certain energy that you have. No, I don't want to be disarmed either. I don't want to be disarmed either. I don't want to have to go back to living in fear or hoping that the cops will come. Because one thing we know, especially in Philadelphia, the cops are not coming until they know that the situation is probably over. In Philadelphia, they're almost never there to come and intervene in an active situation. The vast majority of the time, they'll come when it's time to clean everything up. I don't want to be disarmed either. But something I don't want to say, I don't think that only the government, I don't trust our government worth anything. So I don't think only the government should have access to rifles, but I do think that there needs to be a way to monitor and regulate who gets rifles, and it shouldn't be up to the government to decide. There should be some way for us to decide. Anyway, I gotta go, you guys. I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for everything. I'm really sorry for just being like a nutcase on here. I feel like a lunatic. I'm just sick. I'm just sick. To hurt a child, like, we live in such a shithole world. And so many adults are trash. I'm trash. Most of you guys are trash. We're all trash. Kids aren't trash. Kids are the only not trash thing. And it is such a violation, it's such a transgression against everything that is good in this world to hurt a child. That's why it's like, oh, would you really sacrifice yourself to run up there? Fuck yes. Fuck yes. Children deserve to be saved. Children deserve to be protected. Children deserve heroes. Adults are trash. Children deserve to be saved. Alright, guys. I love you guys. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go die for a while. I'm just tired. Alright. See you later, guys.